Good afternoon and welcome to our 4 p.m. Wednesday meditation here at First Presbyterian Church in Rutherford, New Jersey. I'm Peter Wilkinson, the pastor. Today I'd like to share the fourth psalm. The psalmist writes, "Answer me when I call, O God of my right. You gave me room when I was in distress. Be gracious to me and hear my prayer. How long you people shall my honor suffer shame? How long you love vain words and seek after lies? But know that the Lord has set apart the faithful for himself. The Lord hears when I call to him. When you are disturbed, do not sin. Ponder it in your beds and be silent. Offer right sacrifices and put your trust in the Lord. There are many who say, oh, that we might see some good. Let the light of your face shine on us, O Lord. You have put gladness in my heart more than when their grain and wine abound. I will lie down and sleep in peace. For you alone, O Lord, make me lie down safely." This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Often as we come to beginnings of days and ends of days, we might wonder how we might acknowledge the relationship that we have with God and others as we assess how we are dealing with the challenges and trials and the joys that present themselves at any given time. The fourth psalm I find to be a really rich sharing of coming to the end of the day, and in the midst of a day probably filled with more challenges than joys and wonders, allowing oneself to simply lay at the feet of God all that is deep and concerning in our hearts and lives. When the psalmist writes, "Answer me when I call, you gave me room when I'm in distress, be gracious and hear my prayers," sounds like somebody who is searching. And then the basic statement, how long shall my honor suffer shame? How long will you love vain words and seek after lies? In one sense, allowing God to hear the trials of this specific psalmist, but it's also how long we find ourselves facing a day where our experiences don't seem to have a change as we've offered up to God and try to make changes in our lives. How long do we have to face the trials of a job that we're struggling with, or a circumstance that causes us great pain, or a relationship where things are just not quite going right? But in the midst of that, in the midst of a long extended trial, the psalmist writes, "I know that the Lord has set apart the faithful. The Lord hears when I call to him." A history of God's people has been God's ability and capacity to hear the challenges and cries of all the people. Whether it is God speaking to Moses through a burning bush saying, "I have seen, I have heard the cries of the people," or whether it is reflecting back upon how Jesus came into the world to hear the challenges of life and the world. We continually have this reminder of God's providence and promise of hearing us and responding ultimately to our calls. And then there is, in one sense, the self-reflection. When you are disturbed, do not sin. Ponder it in your beds and be silent. Offer right sacrifices and put your trust in God. In other words, as we face our own challenges, recognizing what is disturbing, what might be happening that causes us to break relationships with God or with others. And then allowing oneself to then adjust one's relationship with God. Offer right sacrifices. Put your trust in the Lord. But as we face our the challenges and trials, there are these powerful words of comfort. There are many who say, "Oh, that we might see some good. Let the light of your face shine upon us, O Lord. You have put gladness in my heart, more than when their grain and wine abound." There's a reminder that is shared in that psalm of one who has heard before the success stories. I have gotten through a trial because God was there. At times that may not be quite enough in our current situation. But as we come to this time, this psalmist shares what I find to be important, and I believe important for all of us on a Wednesday night or any night. I will both lie down and sleep in peace. For you alone, O Lord, make me lie down safely. Reminds me of the 23rd Psalm, doesn't it? I lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters. God restores our soul. Halfway through this week, what may be causing you distress and worry? What might you lift up to God as your brokenness? What are the signs of hope and love that you need today? And as you lie down this evening, as you seek sleep in peace, trust in the promise that for you alone make me lie down safely, because that promise is also for you. Thanks be to God for this gift. As we come to the middle of this week, we lift up in prayer those who are part of our lives that are facing great challenges. We remember first responders wherever they are, leaders of countries and Congress and courts, governors and legislators, mayors and community leaders. We lift up all facing challenges in churches, all who face trials in their journeys as people of God, all are facing trials who we might wonder how they face life because of what they believe or don't believe. But as we come to this time and remember those who are deep within our hearts and souls, let us look to God in prayer. Gracious and loving God, thank you for providing us this opportunity to stop and reflect and recognize that as our day and this day and all days come to an end, we need you. We need the opportunity to confess to you the brokenness in our lives, to acknowledge to you what indeed is taking place, to be reminded of the stories of how you enter people's lives and change them forever, and your promise to be with us not only this day but all days. As we live through the clatter of noises and the cacophony of sounds, may we indeed be mindful of your presence and your promise, so that we might lie down and sleep in peace this night and all nights, as you allow us to lie down safely now and forever. Amen. I thank you for joining me this afternoon and join me any Wednesday at 4 p.m. Please join us as we worship online. We are on at 8:30 and in our live in-person service at 10 a.m. As we go our different ways, let us be mindful of what the prophet Micah reminds us. What does the Lord require? But that we do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with our God. May God's grace and peace be with us now and forever. Amen.